Imam Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he used to say that the Ḥadīth of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, even if they may be Khabar Wahid, should be muqaddam, should be taken above all forms of qiyas. There are actually different types of qiyas. There's a more specific form of qiyas, which occurs on a micro scale. It can occur in one specific mas'ala, for example. Let's say there's a drink you have, and you don't know whether that drink is halal or haram. So you ask yourself, does it have anything that should cause it to become haram? Because the drink didn't exist in the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example. We don't have any recollection of this drink even existing in the time of the Sahaba or the Tabi'un and so on and so forth. How do you mention a hukum regarding this drink? So over here we do qiyas. So we say, okay, does it have the reason for hurma, which is intoxication, iskar, in it or not? If it doesn't have it, we consider it halal. If it has, for example, or it doesn't have anything else which is haram as well inside of it, we consider it halal. But if it has any component which would make it haram, then we would consider it haram. This is a very specific form of qiyas in a very specific mas'ala. This is one form of qiyas. And in this form of qiyas, the most important component is the illah jami'ah, the wasf jami', the quality that you're finding in the asl, which is causing the hukum, and you're finding the same quality in the fara', which is going to also transfer the hukum over to the fara'. So there's one asl, there's one fara', meaning there's one thing you're holding on to from the Quran and Sunnah, one evidence, and there's one fara', there's one subsidiary situation and scenario, and the illah is, even if it's mustanbata, even if it's extracted and derived, okay, or it's something which is mansusa, for example, you find the illah actually being mentioned in nas itself. The point is, it's one illah transferring one hukum in one scenario over to another scenario, and that is an individual scenario. This is one form of qiyas. And the ruh, the spirit of this form of qiyas, all lies in the illah. Many times in this form of qiyas, the illah is not actually mansus. The majority of the ahkam, the ilal, are not explicitly mentioned in the nas. The ilal themselves are extracted. And because they're extracted by way of the dhann of the mujtahid, by way of the assumption of the mujtahid, for this reason we call this dhanni, meaning this is what ijtihad is. It's the assumption of the mujtahid that this is the illah, this is the reason why the hukum in the asl is so on and so forth, and therefore I'm going to transfer the hukum. Now if the mujtahid got this assumption wrong, like if he misunderstood why the reason was for the actual hukum in the asl, then of course his qiyas is going to be wrong. And Imam Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala says, Khabar Wahid 100% is muqaddam upon this form of qiyas. Why? Because this qiyas is dhanni, like it ends up going back to dhann. And Khabar Wahid is the statement of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's another form of qiyas though. And that form of qiyas is what we call Qiyas Jali, or they also call it al-asl al-am. And what is that form of qiyas? That's a lot, this form of qiyas is a lot stronger. Why? Because this form of qiyas is not we're taking one scenario and we understand the illah and we're applying it to one scenario. This form of qiyas is basically after surveying a number of textual evidences. So it's not one textual evidence. It's like maybe 40, maybe 100 different textual evidences. And you're finding one common theme that's in all of them. You're finding one common theme which is found in all of these evidences. Now, even though those individual evidences can be in different scenarios, in different ahkam altogether. Like for example, buyu' transactions. You survey all of the types of buyu' that are impermissible and you're going to find one common theme in them, which is the bay' that results in gharar. That bay' is impermissible. You just keep looking at all of the buyu' that are impermissible. You're going to look at this scenario, this scenario, this scenario. The same common theme is being repeated. Okay, or bay'ul majhul, for example, is impermissible. The same common theme is being repeated. These common themes that are extracted from a number of different nusus, these are also extracted by way of ijtihad. Like this is not, the nas didn't come and tell us, okay, this is the common theme, this is the al-asl al-am, this is the, qa'idah that you have to be upon. They're also extracted by way of ijtihad. But this ijtihad is a very clear form of ijtihad. This is not something where people differ in. They don't differ in it at all, in fact. Because these common themes are being repeated, everyone ends up agreeing with it. You don't find khilaf amongst the mujtahidun regarding these common themes. They pretty much all agree on them. So the idea that the bay' that entails gharar, deception within it, is a impermissible bay. This wasn't something taken from one specific scenario. Like, look at so many buyu' that were made impermissible, and you're finding this common theme being repeated. So the ulama don't differ regarding these common themes. This is called al-asl al-am. Doing qiyas upon this type of an asl, this is called qiyas jali. So if now, for example, there's a certain hukum or a certain scenario where we're looking for a hukum and we're not sure where to get that hukum from, and we do qiyas upon a common theme, like what would this theme dictate? What would this asl am dictate in this scenario? This is not the same type of qiyas, which is the first qiyas we mentioned. This is a far more powerful qiyas, because the mustanad of this qiyas is actually something which is mujma' alayh. It's actually something upon which there is ijma'. Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, interestingly, he said whether the qiyas is the minor form of qiyas or it's the major form of qiyas, at the end of the day, it is qiyas. It is ijtihadi. And because it's ijtihadi, if it ever goes against the statement of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even if it's a Khabar Wahid, we're going to give tarjih to the statement of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the hadith is authentic. As long as the hadith is authentic, we can prove it's the statement of the Messenger. Doesn't matter what type of qiyas it is. The fuqaha said, okay, wait. How do you know this is a statement of the Messenger? How can you determine that it's a statement of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? They say, because we know it's authentic. Like, how did you determine that it's authentic? We say we looked at the chain of narrators, and the chain of narrators were all thiqa, they're all trustworthy. And because they're trustworthy, we determine, and they actually met each other, so we determine that this is true, meaning this relaying of information from the Messenger is correct. So we say, even if they're trustworthy, are they humans? They say yes. Can humans make mistakes? The answer is yes. So they say no. Even if they can make mistakes, the default is that they should not be making mistakes, because that's what it means when we say they're thiqa. Like, we say that's correct. So the fuqaha can say that's correct. But this is also dhanni now. That's also ijtihad. Yani the qawa'id that you are using to determine the very fundamental qawa'id upon which you are basing your entire claim that this is a statement of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those qawa'id themselves are qawa'id aqliya dhanniya. Those qawa'id themselves are qawa'id aqliya dhanniya. The issue is that these qawa'id aqliya dhanniya, right, even if you say one person, for example, Khabar Wahid from one person, even then it's an authentic hadith, but the problem is that one person could have made a mistake, and the person he narrated from could have made a mistake, and you say the default is that he didn't make a mistake. That's correct. The default is that he didn't make a mistake. However, over here, what he's saying in the end is actually going against another dalil, and that dalil can also be very, very strong. Like in Qiyas Jali is a very strong dalil. It's not a weak dalil. So there are a lot of scholars, fuqaha and usuliyun especially, that will say that, okay, wait, your approach over here, in reality, like your entire claim is based on the fact that this is the statement of the Messenger. That in of itself is based on dhann and ijtihad. Like, it being the statement of the Messenger is also dhanni and ijtihadi. Which dhann is stronger? Is the dhann which is dependent upon the common theme which is found in all of these narrations, is that dhann stronger, which is a form of qiyas, or is this dhann stronger, which is that I'm going to trust the narrator, and it's one individual narrator? Which dhann is stronger? So the qawa'id of the muḥaddithīn that the muḥaddithīn use to determine tasheeh da'if are literally the same exact qawa'id aqliyah that the fuqaha are using in their usul. There is no difference. It's literally the same exact thing. If qiyas khafi is suggesting one thing and qiyas jali is suggesting another thing, which one are you going to give tarjih to? Qiyas jali. Why? Because it's more apparent. Same thing with over here. If one narrator is narrating one way and 9 narrators are narrating the other way, which one are you going to give tarjih to? The one where there's more, because that's more likely stronger. If there's 1 versus 1, which one do you give tarjih to? The one which is stronger, because that's more likely correct. It's literally the same exact qaida aqliyah. Okay? The one that has more quwwah, the one that has more strength, we're going to give tarjih to that approach and that methodology.